So a lot of people have been asking about what the red box is. It's an external battery pack. It's a Lipo battery. It's 3200 milliamps, 11.1 volts, and it's 3 cells. This is a Lipo battery. It's somewhat dangerous. If it gets punctured, it'll explode, catch on fire. All I use it for is an external power source. Cons: much shorter life. On average, 150 to 250 cycles on charging. The sensitivity of the chemistry, it can lead to fire. You have to store it in like a metal container, fireproof container, when not in use. And then when you charge it and use it for the day and it's still got a charge on it, you have to decharge it down to a lower voltage with a voltage meter and keep it above 3 volts so you don't mess up the battery. If it goes below that, then you messed up your battery. And then there's other batteries that are out there, like the nickel metal hydride, and that's NiMH. Longer lifespan than Lipos, much less sensitive chemistry, won't catch on fire. Simpler charges and discharges. The standard White's battery is a nickel metal hydride. There's also a heavy duty one. These work perfect. I have 2 of them, and it's less evasive. You don't have to modify anything, and we'll get into that in a second. There's also other people that are taking the pen-like case, which is the black box, and putting batteries in them of much higher capacity. I don't know what they're made of, but there's kits out there that you can purchase off the internet. When you buy a Lipo battery, you have to have a balanced charger. The charger's special. It'll hook into the battery, and then the battery has a little wire that comes installed on it, and it plugs into here as a balance charger. The 3 cells I was talking about before that's in this battery, it'll evenly distribute a charge as it increases in the amount of energy that's in the battery, evenly. Same way it discharges during use. Now, when I bought this battery, I bought this at the same time. And when I got this battery in the beginning, I was really scared of it. I was apprehensive in using it because all the warnings that are all over it. And since then, I've learned to respect it, educated myself on it, the use and the care and maintenance on it. How I use mine is with a pen-like case. I'll give you close-ups of this stuff at the end of the video. Inside a pen-like case, there's a detent that you normally feel. There's a second one also. You have to lift up in order to remove the battery door. Inside the pen-like case, you'll have to grind out everything that's in there. Make it as smooth and empty as you can because you're going to have to fit some items in there. The 2 metal terminals that go to the metal detector normally, on the exterior it's marked with a positive and negative. You'll have to solder a whip. I bought a 12-inch whip, just the wires that are the same gauge thickness wire as that's on the battery to match it. And then I bought a end piece that matches what's on the end of my battery. I had to have this installed by an RC shop, and I also had them install this at an RC shop. I also had them solder the terminals for my wires to these terminals, because you can't do it with a regular pin soldering gun. You need the real deal hardcore soldering gun that somebody knows what they're doing. I don't have that equipment, and these guns are like $100 plus, so I just had to hit them do it. They pretty much built, gave me everything that I needed in order to do this project. Did the soldering, and the rest of the finicky work I did myself. The wires that are on the inside, I got an inline fuse from an auto parts store. These are bus fuses. They're glass. There's really short ones, and then there's the standard one. You need a 500 milliamp half amp fuse in order to put inside that inline fuse. You can see that mine's on the negative. In this system, it'll work on the positive or negative. You choose what side you want to put it on. The wire was black, and it matched, the positive to negative connection being black, so I put it on the black side. It doesn't matter. I did research this. If you don't feel safe putting it on the negative side, put it on the positive side. Doesn't matter. It's in this complete circuit. After I had those soldered, I slid some shrink tubing over top of the ends of that just to cinch it down, and then I put 2-part epoxy on the first inch or 2 just to make sure that vibrations are not going to knock that connection apart. And the shrink tubing is 6-to-1 ratio. I got it off Amazon. It's adhesive line for marine use, so it's waterproof and airtight. So every time I do a connection like this that could come into abrasion from use and bouncing around in the truck and at the, you're out metal detecting, I put a thick layer on that and shrunk it down. Why you need 6-to-1 is because you have to fit over top of the connections once the wire's complete. Because this will be soldered and this will be soldered, and the same thing on the battery. So you'll get 6-to-1. They usually, when you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart to get the shrink tubing auto parts store, it's only like 2-to-1 or 3-to-1, maybe max 4-to-1 if you're lucky. But 6-to-1's a good bet. Whenever I bought mine, I ordered an inch. They sent 3/4, and then I ordered an 1.5 inches, and they sent 2 inches. So I had a hard time getting the actual size that I wanted, which was 1.25 inches. And if you do the math on 6-to-1, it shrinks down very small, so it cinches tight to this. If you went to get a 3-to-1 1-inch tube, 3-to-1 ratio shrink, it won't cinch down and it'll be loose and it won't have the adhesion. I don't know how much you need the adhesive liner on it, but I used it just to be safe. So the wires are on the inside, inline fuse, same gauge wires what's on the battery, and whenever the battery door will need a notch in it. So, and once that slides into place, I mocked my battery up with my battery. My battery is already done. I stuck it on top of the metal detector so I could mock up how I wanted this wire to come out of the connection in the base. And when you heat this wire up, it's still malleable. You can move it around. So all I did was keep this warm at the base, and I had the notch cut, and it's just almost the same exact size of the wire. But it's just, when you place it, push it, cinch it into place, it makes the wire the same shape as the hole in the battery door. So it holds it really tight. Once I got that connection made, and you have to play with this, you're not going to get it on the first shot. You're going to have to heat it up and move it and make sure everything works, and it'll move for a little bit, 20-30 seconds after you got it nice and hot. Here's the bad part. Your V3i, you're going to have to cut a notch in the battery door, which I talked to Whites, and they said that they can replace the battery door. They can send me the parts, but there's a hinge in here that you have to peen the outsides. It's ultra small, very finicky, and I would recommend them doing it versus you if you went to put a different battery door on once you put the notch in. But to me, my metal detector is a tool, not a car. I'm not worried about resale. I'm going to use it for what it is and get the most out of it for me, just the way it is. And then the black box gets cut. It's a small notch. It's about 5/8 of an inch. You just, 5/8 of an inch wide, maybe by a 1/2 inch deep. Same thing on the battery door. I had this warm. I put it into place. You have to get the battery door down. I slid the bottom wire into the notch in the battery door, so it takes the same shape as the hole that's coming out of the black box. And then I warmed it back up again real gently, because you don't do it on the metal detector. You slide it back out, warm it up, slide it back in, and then while it's still warm, put the battery door down over top of it, and it makes it the same shape. So once you lock this down, it's in place and it's not going anywhere. And that connection gets stronger once you have the battery on. The battery, same thing. I put shrink tubing over this once the connection got made. There is about a 5% area that's not being covered by the protective material on the outside, the shrink tubing. I'm okay with that because most of it is. And that's the best I could get. Now, don't heat this tubing up while it's against the battery. It's against the battery because I made it go there. When you get the battery, the wire will be out here loose. You can move it anywhere. Work it out here with a lighter or butane torch. Warm it up. Don't be right on it. You have to educate yourself on how to use it. Get it warm, cinch it all down, and while it's still malleable, work it into place and get it exactly where you want it. When this was still hot, I bent that and I held it until it cooled down, and then it stayed. The only reason that this zip tie is on the outside of it, because I want this thing to stay top dead center. That wire's still exposed, so it's not holding into place like a cast. It's still able to move by that point. So I have the zip tie on it just to keep it top dead center. This here is the balance wire I was talking about before. You have to charge, and I'm sorry I'm jumping around here, but I'm trying to cover as much as I can. On Lipo batteries, they have to be charged at a specific rate. Your charger has to be set for a Lipo battery. They will charge different types of batteries, but you have it on the wrong battery, you're going to cook your battery, if not start a fire. So these are dangerous. You have to know what you're doing. But on the charger, you plug it up, and then you have the balance wire on the outside, and depending on how many cells you have, so this can balance, this connection will only go into one of these. It's designed that if you have a 4-cell battery, there's only a 4-cell connection that'll go in there. And you can't put it in a 2 either. It'll only go into one position. There's 3 ports, one connection will fit, and that's the one that you'll have. You have to figure out depending on what battery you get. The more cells and the more milliamps, the more expensive the battery gets. The people that the guy that I learned this from off of the White's forum, which is your biggest wealth of information out there for using White's electronics machines, uses a 5,000 milliamp battery. That's a serious battery. Since this battery is not in a RC car, RC airplane, a UAS or drone, it's exposed to the elements. I bought a hard case one. You can buy a soft case one too that you can put in a bag and stick it inside of the RC car, but mine's outside. So I got a hard case one so it can take impacts while on the outside of the metal detector. There's Velcro on the bottom of this. Bought it from Lowe's. It's like $8. It holds 15 pounds of, I don't know, force of some kind, whatever. It holds it into place up to 15 pounds until it breaks free. It's pretty serious Velcro. But it's sticky on one side, so I stuck some here, and then I stuck it on the top of my metal detector here with as much bearing surface area as I could, and to have good connection. And then I just take my battery and I stick it on the Velcro, and I had it in place and I worked it as best I could. I just best guessed an arc to come down to match the battery. The battery was the biggest part on trying to make this connection. So, and then once it plugs in, I have the pin lights in there, the door's down, a wire feeding up to my battery, and then I turn it on and it runs all day. Right now I'm at 11.29 volts. I practiced with a Detector 13-inch coil for about 3.5 hours. And then I went and hunted at that baseball park for about 6 hours. I started at I think 11.9 volts. And I hunted all that time with my backlight battery set on 7, because it doesn't matter to me how much power I use now. I'm not trying to conserve. And I'm at 11.29 now after all that time. So you can do some serious hunting with that battery, but there's a lot of maintenance. There are some dangers, and there's care with the battery that comes along with it. When I go to replace this battery, I don't have to replace everything. It's just the battery. They run about $50 to $60. So, for a battery with that much energy, that's kind of worth it to me. And I like to be able to have that much energy and not have to worry about, losing, running on 8 volts after I've been out there for a few hours. Not saying these batteries are bad. Some of mine have been used quite a few times and they die out pretty quick. But, these will hold you and keep you in place. Keep 2, just switch halfway through. I don't know if there's any benefits to running at a higher voltage, as max, over 11 all day. But I have seen some benefits. Maybe I'm just getting better at it because I spent a lot of times on the White's forum reading, paying attention to what other guys are doing, and then training myself and time in the field, understanding this machine. So this is all your decision if you want to do it or not. There's less evasive ways and there's other methods of doing this. But I'm just trying to let you all know what it is. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not telling you it's a good idea. It's just something that's out there that I discovered and I did, and I'm sharing it with you. Okay, here's the hard case Lipo battery. It's 3,200 milliamps, or what's known as mAh in the RC world, and it's 11.1 volts, 3 cells, you can see there. That is ultra important. You can go bigger in milliamps, and the volts stay at that point, or stick at 11.1, and the only difference in cost would be how many cells, and how many milliamps. This is the balance charger. I have a piece of Velcro on there just to keep it from whipping around when I'm out metal detecting. This is the shrink wrap tubing that I put on there. You can see I should have done it with one single piece, but I was still getting used to my project at that point in time, so there's sections on there. This is a connection that I had to buy separate than the battery so that it will match the end of the charger. The charger is universal. It has a connection on the end. It'll come with many of these because there's like 10 different styles of connections that go to batteries, and so it'll come with one. You can choose any of them. It doesn't have to be the one that I'm showing you here, as long as you make the one on the battery match this, and also the one that's on your pen light case. This is the charger that I have. It's made by the same people as my battery. It's just a Lipo balanced charger. You can see that it's got the nickel metal hydride, whatever it is, on there also. If you don't, you have to have those set correctly for what type of battery you're charging, and also how many amps you're charging per cell in the battery while it's balancing. That is, contact your manufacturer on whatever battery you choose to get if you do this, and make sure you have that straight. The Velcro on top of the V3i, it covers up a lot of the labeling. I had a sticker over top of my speaker hole just to keep dirt from out of there, but I took it off and then put this over top of it. You can still see a few of them are exposed. Here's the pen light case as if it was going to be in use. It's just a standard pen light case, wire coming out of it, and a connection. I wrote my directions how to charge. See, I have to plug in the charger, make sure I pick Lipo, pick 3 amps at the charge rate. That may not be the same one you need, so do not mimic that. Make sure you verify that for yourself. Connect the red and black wire, and then connect the balance wire. It takes a little getting used to if you haven't ever been around it before. Oh, and I just saw my note. This, when you're charging, keep it up off the ground. Don't let all the bearing surface touch something. Put something underneath of it that keeps it so that it doesn't get hot. Never lay it on carpet, ever. But, because seriously, it gets very hot. But have something underneath of it that can keep it where, I guess, put like 5 silver dollars underneath of it. Couple, 5 of your favorite Morgan silver dollars you found underneath of it to keep it up off the counter. Anything like that. A metal tin, something. Here's the battery door notch. Pretty simple. This looks horrible, I'm sorry, because I got in there after that guy soldered it. But there's the negative terminals on the left. It's marked on the outside of the pen light case, and as it comes from the manufacturer. These are both soldered with a real soldering iron, not a stick soldering iron. And then I put shrink tubing on it just to cinch it down. And then I put 2-part epoxy on the first section of the wire just to ensure that those things aren't being, pushed around, because see, all this is loose. I wanted to make sure it stays in position. This is an inline fuse. It has a 500 milliamp, half an amp fuse on the inside. It's an inline glass fuse, not the little bitty one, but the regular normal size. And then this is wires the same gauge as what's on the battery. So you could probably ask that before you buy it from whoever you get it from. Then I have shrink wrap on the wires and a connection. The shrink wrap is only to get it so that it enters the box. You can see where the battery door cinches down on the outside of it when I still had it warm. And then there's the battery door where it's been cut, and then there's where the black box has been cut. So it comes down, and then it closes into a little bitty hole that the wires can come out of. And that cinches down around when I heated up the wire that's coming out of the pen light case, comes out right there. So that's it. This does take some dedication, some time, a lot of patience. It is a project. You do need to have some skills. If you don't have them, educate yourself on it before you do try to do something like the shrink wrap or soldering or whatever it may be. So I'm just trying to combat some of the questions that I have about the big red box that's on the outside of my V3i. It is a power source, external one. And I use many different ones. It's not always the red box, but lately I've been using it. And that's about it. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe. I'm going to be making hopefully a video this Sunday. Go back out and use the bigger coil out at the baseball park and see if I can get a little bit deeper. Been training myself with that coil. I'm not sold on it yet. I know it covers a lot of ground, and maybe I'm just not doing it right yet. It's nothing with a metal detector's instant. So a lot of training there too, and education and patience. A lot of that in life. So thank you for watching. And one last time, with all seriousness, I'm not an RC guy. I am not an electronics modification guy. I am not any expert at anything that I just told you. I could be telling you something that's totally wrong. This is what I did, and it's working for me. You need to make sure that anything and every step that you take, you understand it fully. You've educated yourself on it, and you know exactly what the true answer or correct answer would be. In every YouTube video, the person that's doing the video leaves something out. And you've probably picked up on it at some point through this video. Man, why didn't he tell us about that? Well, that's something you got to figure out for yourself. I can only regurgitate what I told you in this video because it's what I know. I'm not an expert at anything. I'm just a guy that wants a battery on my metal detector so I can metal detect longer at a higher voltage. And that's it.